to be joined by a great group of individuals, and we're going to just go through and quickly introduce ourselves, talk about our business, and what we're seeing on the forefront.
All right, my name is Dan Weitzenkamp. I'm the COO of Apex Homes Management. We are a third-party contractor that deals with a lot of clients, investors in the SFR and multifamily areas. We do primarily preservation, renovation, turns, occupied maintenance, and anything that kind of ties into that. Hand us the property, we give it back to you finished.
Good morning, everybody. Wagner, Nolasco here from Build to Rent Interact. We are based out of Orlando, Florida. Been in the build to rent space for about 8-9 years, so we were the first ones in the state of Florida to do it. We're fully vertically integrated. We are developers, builders. We have additional 6 builders building exclusively BTR for us. We do between 600 and 700 units a year, single family homes. We have done over $700 million of build to rent. And we are fully vertically integrated, as I mentioned, so we have a property management brokerage firm, insurance company, all in to maximize cash flow for our clients. We now have an arm in Texas as well, just doing our first build to rent project in Lubbock, Texas, and Florida. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Chris Burns, Senior Vice President for Lincoln Property Company. I oversee all multifamily operations for Lincoln in the southeastern U.S. Historically, we have been a multifamily developer, property manager, moved into the BTR space in 2014 in the Atlanta market, and currently have about 7,000 units that we manage across the southeast, and continuing to see that grow in our portfolio.
My name is Bill Schmidt. I'm the Vice President of McKinley Accountants. We're a builder developer in Atlanta, Raleigh, and Huntsville. We have a portfolio of about 1,200 BTR homes that we currently own and manage. We have a management company and as well. And we have several communities that we're building for other companies as well. So we're in the builder or fee developments, fee building space as well.
Alpha Investment Capital. We're private real estate firm and a series of commingled funds and some targeted strategies, which we have a big cold storage business, a big land, Florida land, master plan development business, and an SFR business. We have about $4 billion in assets. We have a portfolio within one of our funds about 2,300 homes, which was sort of workforce housing in the southeast. It's sort of what I call tertiary markets in the southeast. We sold it and we started to rebuild a portfolio in the larger southeastern markets, which is somewhat agnostic to do with BTR or BTR, SFR. That's what we're growing forward. We use vacant homes as our property management.
Thank you. So quite a diverse group up here. And one thing I really want to start our conversation with is talking about how the single-family renter is different than your traditional multifamily renter. On the FICO score, household income. And of course, it can depend a little bit on the product class, but Chris, I'd love to start with you. I think, kind of going into that business from traditional multifamily. What's your perspective?
Well, I think the global answer is on the SFR, BTR side, we see a more creditworthy resident. We see a higher FICO score, we see a higher household income, but like all things real estate, location, as you start to look at the individual assets and locations and what drives those locations, we see this product sometimes go very rural, and when you go outside the city proper in an area like Atlanta, then we see the incomes come down, and we sometimes see the FICO scores be more challenging. So while you can globally say yes, I think it then becomes a locational driven and really what drives that particular asset and location.
Howard, what do you see?
Well, again, so if you think about multifamily, will tend to have more single, younger, a little younger demographic, where in built for rent or single family rental, will tend to have a lot more to income families, which is helpful, but you know, as he talked about it, it's location driven. Part of what we did, and part of frankly we sold our other portfolio and looked at what we did going forward, because frankly, you're gonna have a time period of inflation. You're gonna have a time period and you want to really be able to cover your interest costs through rent growth. You have to have people who actually can pay for rent growth, and so try to find areas where you're near jobs that where incomes are growing, and that's what it is. So you as you talk about, we look at rent to income ratios as what you do when you look at some FICO scores, but you really want to make sure you have, you know, that job creation.
Yeah, the runway.
In your area, or you'll have a percentage of problems.
Right. And Wagner, you're actively investing in new areas and new properties. So are you kind of chasing some of that profile, the job growth, the demographics? Tell us a little bit about what you do.
Absolutely, right? So 80% of all multifamily being built right now is 1 to 2 bedrooms. So they're very, very small multifamily in very high density areas. Usually we start from the beginning. So we understand where the net migrations are going to. We understand the job creation that it's happening. We meet with the city managers, the economical development team, and we understand how many jobs are coming to that area, what are their per capita income, what's the family income, and then we understand what kind of a product needs to be placed. Also, I truly believe that the dream of Gen Zs and millennials, which are our biggest clients right now, are moving into a single family home. So they are living in an apartment because maybe they work downtown or they're in a very high dense areas, but their dreams is really, you know, work part hybrid remotely and part at the office, but usually to live in the suburbs in a single family home. I think new construction helps tremendously on SFR. That's what we do. When you have a brand new house, new kitchen, new bathroom, they take their first bath, they cook their first meal. It's absolutely amazing. They have a feeling of success. I have a little box, it's called Treasures from Heaven. So I have letters from tenants that, you know, they tell us the experience they had about maybe not being able to afford a house, but renting one. So jobs, location, quality of the product that you are delivering is fantastic. And we see more and more young adults, you know, Gen Zs and millennials renting. 44% of millennials and Gen Zs are now renting single family homes or want to rent single family homes. Another very important fact is when you talk about the rents, we tend to increase rents very conservatively, but at the same time, we have 76% of our tenants staying in the same residence for at least 3 years. So retention is a big thing for us as well, and that shows. We work on an entry-level space, so it's a little bit different. We don't do any high-end residences, so we have a line of tenants waiting for homes to be ready.
You know, it's funny, it's interesting to do 1 or 2 bedroom stuff, because we have tried to be, what we're doing is really 3 bedrooms and up, and the idea that really what we're looking for is not only filling the space, but having less turn. And if we, especially in a single family product where the turn amount, the turn time to rehab, whatever you're doing takes longer, what's to us important on a cash flow basis, frankly, is to keep them rented. And so if you can have family in there, like the school district or whatever, you know, we would think about that. So it's an interesting, I mean, it's a product that's probably better than we would have expected. But we have tried to, again, be, family oriented.
And Howard's right. Yeah, no, our SFRs are usually 3.2s or 4.3s. That's what we built. What I was mentioning too is the multifamilies being built right now, 80% of them are smaller. So they are 1 to 2 bedroom, so they won't accommodate a family, and they tend to go more to the SFR.
And I will say, we have had great success with the high-density bungalow product in markets like Sarasota, where we've done 1 and 2 bedroom bungalows. And for the empty nester, they have been extremely popular. So there is a market within this market for that product as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Dan, what are you kind of seeing? Let's get back to that turnover, kind of the stickiness of the different tenant types. So what do you see among the various products that you offer?
Well, so we deal with a multitude of clients, and the multifamily is starting to do a lot of CapEx stuff to really start to try to attract some more of the younger crowds, kind of like you were referring to. It's that end of it versus, when we see turnovers, it's they're improving to attract more of a family, right? And it's been really interesting because we have, it depends on the area and it depends on the demographics, but a lot of it breaks down to, well, your multifamily versus your SFRs, especially in the build-to-rent communities, are let's try to improve to attract to a family because they know that they're going to get that 3 to 5 year, right? And obviously it helps your all's cash flow, and it's advantageous for that piece as well. So.
Right. And Bill, I know that you're kind of targeting, you've got a wide portfolio. You do lots of purposeful acquisitions and projects as well. You mentioned you're trying to get into the space really from the development and going forward. So what is your strategy behind that? And what markets are you looking into? We're here in Florida. I manage advisory in the Southeast. It's very, very busy. We're relatively in the Southeast panel, except for Dan from Wisconsin, but that's okay. I'm originally from Wisconsin, so. So what are you seeing, Bill?
We're looking primarily in the Southeast. We're in Huntsville, which is an interesting market. There's a new FBI headquarters there, NASA's there, Space Force, there's all kinds of different things. And they're bringing people in for 3 or 4 years at a time, and this is a nice alternative for them. And we're building all 2, 3, and 4 bedroom units as well. We do build garden style apartments as well, which are usually 1 and 2 bedroom apartments. So we're seeing markets like that where we really want to have, like you all said, a growing workforce and people moving there. So we're in Raleigh, Huntsville, and Atlanta. And we're primarily on the outskirts. We have the challenges with the entitlements now. We're having municipalities limit rentals to 10% and things like that, so we have to deal with that. Some markets, that's not an issue. We actually have a build-to-rent zoning in Huntsville that we were able to get, which first time I've been able to actually get a zoning.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And the municipalities, the thesis for the municipalities of limited rental, you're saying, versus for sale. Is that almost what people want to buy homes? The thesis.
There's somewhat a negative, competition for the rental people, especially in the scattered lot community, where you're a for sale community, and then you have, 20% of rentals in the community. It's an issue sometimes. We really got kind of scattered lot communities, and we're just building, all communities. And we're able to go to the municipalities and say it's managed like an apartment community, the yards are mowed, everything's taken care of, they're managed properly, and so that's helped a little bit. But we still have challenges in a lot of markets, in zoning.
Yeah, it's super time intensive to kind of educate the local municipality about the product and how it can be a little bit different from your traditional garden style apartment, so to speak. So what do you see with that, Chris? Kind of on the municipality or the challenges side with the product?
Well, I mean, Bill makes a good point. I mean, we do see of the developers we work with, we see a good bit of pushback from the communities, and going in and educating them, they I think are somewhat more receptive to the purpose-built community where they are going to have regular maintenance and regular upkeep, and a lot of them lay on the fact that they want an HOA in place so that we have more covenants and the ability to enforce those than we do in multifamily. So I think that's there. But frankly, a lot of the municipalities today will bristle at any kind of scattered site idea because it goes against housing affordability, and they feel like the investors are squeezing out the first-time home buyers. And so from an affordability issue, I think that's probably the biggest negative we see out of the local governments.
Yeah, we even, dealing with permitting a lot, we get that question a lot because is this a build-to-rent community? And you tiptoe around that a little bit, you know what I mean? So I see the problem for sure.
Yeah, I find the whole argument interesting because when it comes here, house prices seem to be holding up. Probably people, the audience who work on it, us who work on scans as far as math, it's very difficult to make work today. As I said, home prices are holding up. So if your theory was that if we're not there and house prices are holding up, then we were driving the market. That's in a sense doing it. And in general, the product is being provided, it needs to be provided institutionally, whether it's a vehicle or community or SFR staff, is far superior to what you get from a local operator or someone who has their home, buys 2 more homes to rent them for investment or whatever they do, because like any less, they're not in the business of taking care of homes. They getting a call at 5 o'clock on Friday, the wash dryers or whatever it is.
Yeah, that's never fun. But that's a good point, kind of the difference between the scattered or kind of mom and pop ownership and then this purposeful development of a BTR product or an SFR product. So let's go through and kind of, you're all in the space. If you could maybe name kind of the top 2 or 3 things that are important to your target renter in your product that you always try to check the box when you go through. So
Kitchens and bathrooms.
kitchens and bathrooms. Okay, so necessities, but
Yeah.
are you saying the finishes?
The finishes, higher end finishes that attract the higher end rents.
Mhm.
And, you always want to make it a little more desirable than the ones down the street, right? So that's what we've been seeing a lot of, especially with our clients. We really want, it's not necessarily about matching doorknobs anymore. It's about hey, let's make the kitchen look really nice, and let's make the bathrooms, beautiful and so it's safe.
Right, and back to that point of kind of keeping the tenant for longer, it's something that they would also buy, it's certainly much more appealing.
Absolutely.
Definitely do the single barrel sinks and.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Anything that, like I said, anything that they would want to see in their own home. Because that's as far as they view it as their own home. It's something that they take pride in. And so when we do a turn in a multifamily property, it's a lot more rent per square foot, if you will, versus an SFR property. Yeah. And it's staggering to see, actually.
So the investment is worth the turnover cost.
Absolutely.
What do you see, Wagner?
Totally agree. I think, kitchens, bathrooms, and the master, because usually you girls are the one that make the decision. So you'll like those walk-in closets and nice kitchens, granite countertops, hardwood cabinets, tile backsplashes. We do Wi-Fi ready thermostats. We do Wi-Fi ready garage door openers, which you can open up from anywhere in the world pretty much. That adds a lot of value. We're starting to do summer kitchens in some of our rental properties as well, which are really, really good. I think, the more you can offer for less on an entry-level product, you're gonna get the tenant. There's a lot of inventory that hasn't been turned over for a while, so older homes We'll probably lose tenants to the new build-to-rent communities, especially because of the amenities and the finishes. So if you're getting into the build-to-rent space, if you're looking to get wise about it, make sure your finishes are top-notch. Not only your finishes, but for example, we buy commercial or professional water heaters because that minimizes our capital expenditure as well. So we designed the home from the ground up to be a build-to-rent home, not only a single-family home. And that adds a lot of value to us as property managers, as well as to the client. So LED lighting, granite countertops, vinyl flooring, waterproof vinyl flooring, tile, surrounds on the bathroom, mosaic floors, mirrors with LED lights in the master, double sinks, things like that that add, a little bit more cost to the house, but add so much value to the tenant.
And also you see a lot more get away from the 3 different types of flooring, right? It's mostly LVP and
Correct.
higher end tile. I mean, it's what you're seeing a lot more, especially in the southeast from what I've been.
Correct.
Yeah.
And I would agree on all the interior items. The other thing I would say is space. 2-car garages are extremely popular, fenced yards, the ability to really have that true home experience, things that cater to the pets, doggy doors, wash stations outside the back door. We've seen in some where particularly in the townhome style, where you have space under the stairs, where we've created special little areas for the pet to be housed in there
That's
versus
nice.
having to do a crate. So any of those kinds of little touches that make it more homey, I think are a big plus.
Yeah, I think everybody hit on the topics. I mean, it's the garage, it's storage, it's the fence in the yard, let the dog out. That's a very good DDR. It's why people do that parks. But the other thing that we look at that I think is kind of interesting is turnover. We enlarge some of the front doors and made it easy to get furniture out. We look at hallways, we look at different things like that as you turn over the units to be up. So that's something that's kind of, we pay a little bit of attention to. We won't redesign the house for it, but we'll look at things like that, how we turn over and things like that. Just costs you a lot of money, cleaning up.
Yeah, the one thing, as a firm, as what we try to do is we put technology in to make sure we're able to service our renter well. And that we find, gives them a happy experience. And again, all those things could be win-win situations that we can do or high priorities and having a culture of servicing the technology is critical.
Yeah, and it's all very market specific as well. What to look for and what's important. I was at a different conference kind of discussing this industry, and one thing that was mentioned that was such a great consideration is that in Texas, you have to make sure that your garages are large enough to accommodate all the large F-150s that are everywhere. So, any other kind of unique market nuances? Golf cart garages anywhere, or anything else you see?
Golf carts and flooring, yeah, that's for sure.
Absolutely.
And they always go big in Texas, so you always got to make sure you have bigger garages. I can agree with that 100%.
I just want to add something on the build-to-rent communities itself. If you have dog parks, as very well Chris said, dog parks, walking trails, any additional amenity you can offer, that's what people are looking for. So our tenants, they have a tendency to, after COVID especially, they don't want to press the same elevator button as anybody else. They want some elbow room, but they want to have nice amenities. So if you build a build-to-rent community, make sure you invest in the amenities. It doesn't have to be expensive, but it has to be attractive, especially for families with young kids and pets.
Yeah, that's a really good point, that the amenities don't have to be expensive, but you certainly have to allow for people to continue that lifestyle of living in a single family home that they own. So going
Correct.
to the dog park, having trails to walk on, etc. So let's kind of go back to that demographic point again, just with the families and the children and the millennials right now. So the average age of buying a new home is 32, and that is where the largest concentration of millennials are. But obviously, we have a huge housing affordability issue. So that's why this asset class is really performing well, because we're able to offer that solution that maybe they're ready for in that life stage, but not necessarily financially ready for. So, you know, what kind of housing, aside from, we talked about the parameters of the 3-4 bedrooms, the garages, you know, we discussed a little bit, you want to be close to schools that are good, but schools can be debatable sometimes as well. What do you kind of see in your experience regarding the school issue? Have you done projects in areas where maybe the schools are not ranked as well as some for sale projects, but they still perform well and they lease up well? Anyone?
I can start. I'm particularly in Florida. We're just starting in Texas. So in Florida, we have what we call charter schools. So charter schools are probably as good as public schools, and they are funded by the state. So I have never done a project in a bad school area per se. I don't think it's safe as a developer. But you know, just do not ignore charter schools. And if you can promote and market to that, to families, especially millennials and Gen Zs that are moving into those new single-family homes, those are great schools. They have a lot of value and a lot of name, you know, very strong names in Florida. So not only public schools matter anymore, but charter schools are a very big thing in Florida, and I think it's growing across the U.S. as well. But no, I mean, my advice as a developer builder, do not buy a piece of land in a bad school zone.
So the only area I disagree is, for instance, we've done some stuff in and around Nashville where they call them tall and skinnies or equivalent of a tiny home type product, which is very close to downtown. And the Aurora campus is being built, where if they even have children, they'll send them to private school or whatever. But if you look at a school score of that area, because it's transitioning, it'll look like a relatively weak school score, and obviously, people want to send it, but we got, great ranks and rented out very quickly, and that's really interesting, product. But again, we always look at it, it's always a big positive. It's sort of, you start at a level that doesn't take anything down, but there's always a positive in the schools, your curve in a sense. But there are isolated locations and product that we can visit where you might look at a nominal school score and don't look.
So not always.
Especially in where the homes are selling.
We see the same thing in Atlanta with the traffic. People who live closer to work than the school district sometimes. You got a 45-minute commute, they might go to the C-level school in the same property. But the schools are huge, and that's the problem.
We agree. I mean, I think, and we can sort of back it up with lease up velocity, because we see where delivery lines up with, that May to August window when schools are turning over. You have a big demand and you can move velocity. You get to September, and if your deliveries are off, sometimes you're sitting with that product for several months because you missed that school window. So I think that really validates the importance of the schools.
Can I just add something? Also, real estate is local. So, for example, as Howard very well said, if it's a neighborhood in Nashville, which is growing tremendously. And that's the best piece of real estate being built right now, especially brand new. I mean, you will probably give up something to get something, and that's a residence, right? So in Florida, for example, in the areas that we built, and remember, different asset classes, different philosophy, right? We build entry-level homes. They're not forced housing, but they're entry level. So that mom, that dad, especially young couples, they want that school district. At least that's what we have found. But you're absolutely right. Different areas, you go deep, get the facts. Florida, we're lucky we have a lot of charter schools.
And actually, you see a lot of the 55-plus communities now starting to really sprout up. And I think that is definitely not centered around schools, obviously. And in some cases, yes, but, you take the Villages as an example. We do have some clients that have homes there, and that's, obviously a big factor now, too.
Mm-hmm. Now, but that's a good segue into the potential for the 55 plus or the age restricted market. And, so you're obviously kind of into that already, Dan. I mean, what's your opinion on the runway?
Well, here's the thing. I mean, there's a lot of empty nesters from baby boomers, and, as that population starts to grow, I think that need is going to be there. And it's starting to grow even as far north as southern Canada, as my team likes to make fun of me on. So, you get up there, it's a matter of, I just moved my mother-in-law into an assisted living, and there's a lot of demand. And I think that there's a lot of opportunity there to grow. Everybody's fighting over the build-to-rent and SFR community. I think they really need to focus on some of the possibilities for the 55-plus communities. It's an undeniable thing that they want their life to be easier, right? They don't want to have to go out and mow an acreage. They want to be taken care of, and I think that is an opportunity all by itself.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I mean, financially, it might make sense for some of them to sell that final house and kind of be done with that. We know that these boomers are really transferring a lot of wealth to their children while they're alive. So it makes a lot of sense.
So we got the 55 and over community.
Not that far away, believe it or not.
We're all going to be there.
Yeah.
So. Are you guys getting into that down the 55 plus, or what's your take on that?
We have age restricted communities for sale.
Okay.
It's in we just started, it's in an area where we were restricted to 10% homes in the county. But I'm sure it's a great asset class. They actually originally tried to do this as a build for age restricted community. They couldn't get it done.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, so the zoning prevented it.
Sometimes you could be like age targeted first age, first age. Restricted.
Right. So
I'm sorry. So as Dan very well said, it's not something we do, 55 and over, age-restricted communities. We try to usually build, for example, we have the Villages in Central Florida, which is actually over 3 counties. They just purchased 8,000 acres in Leesburg. They're doing 40,000 new homes. So what we try to do is, because you cannot live you cannot live if you're not 55 and over, families tend to buy or actually to rent on the surrounding areas of those areas. 55 and over, it's a market that we don't do, because usually that population, they're looking for a lot of amenities. They're looking for golf courses, restaurants, they drive their golf carts everywhere. So it's extremely expensive to develop, especially, communities that are attractive to that age group. Instead, what we do is doctors, nurses, police officers, people that service that community, it's what we're targeting on the surrounding areas of the 55 and over.
Interesting.
yeah, you're right. I mean, because there is a lack of housing for those who work around the Villages.
Correct.
But the school that is in the Villages is highly ranked.
Extremely highly ranked.
Yes, so it's a very good strategy. Kind of a new market niche.
Right, and it's funny because if you work for the villages or at the villages, your kids may actually qualify to go to school at the villages, but in some instances, you're not allowed to live. So go figure.
All right, so that's a unique market strategy. Let's talk about some other maybe future projects or markets that you are excited about. In the near term, maybe you've got something cooking there, and why was that? As much as you would care to disclose. So, Dan.
Well, I have some clients that have been asking us to go to some of these smaller areas, which gets me excited. I live on a farm, right, in rural Wisconsin, so getting out to some of these areas that are not so populated kind of excites me. And I think that it's a different opportunity class that's in need, and so we're excited to get into some of these smaller secondary markets, and even places like Amarillo, Texas, or Little Rock, Arkansas. I mean, it's again very small, but great opportunities.
Yeah, and the whole convergence of work from home post-COVID,
Yep.
and I mean that's really making these tertiary markets continue to be attractive options for future development.
Absolutely.
Totally agree with Dan. We're going into markets that are usually states that are pro-business. That's really important for us. That have
Pro-business?
pro-business, that have very little to no rent control. It's very important for us. We are now investing in a new technology, which is steel frame homes. We pretty much import the whole homes in containers. There's two things in the market right now that people haven't talked about, which is the cost of construction right now and actually the cost of capital. So for you to be efficient on a single family home rental, you have to build it fast and you have to build it cheap. Meaning, the cost of capital, the lowest time that you can hang on to the capital and pay the bank back, the highest return you're gonna have. So we're building houses now in about 7.5 to 8 weeks. On this new technology, we're going into markets, secondary markets as well, Lubbock, Texas. What we do is we do a full research of the employers first. Who are the employers? How many people are moving into that area? For example, in Lubbock, Leprino, which is the largest mozzarella manufacturer company in the US, is opening up a factory generating over 600 jobs. So when you have that amount of jobs coming into an area, you contact the company and say, hey, what are you doing? Does everybody have housing? You do a market study, or you hire Zonda to do it for you, and get the market study, and then you know what to develop. So do not just put a place or a community in some place and think you're going to fill it. Make sure you have all the data first, and make sure you control your cost of construction, which is really, really key right now. And make sure your loans are good and at a very good rate, which as low as you can get right now. But most important is if you're a developer or a builder, try to get the product delivered quickly. That's going to really affect your bottom line.
Yeah, we all know time is money, absolutely.
I mean, I would agree with, we're definitely seeing the product go to a lot of secondary markets across the Southeast. I mean, there's demand for that. We're seeing it in metro markets like Atlanta. It's pushing further and further out into to really kind of secondary suburban locations and areas that we probably wouldn't go develop even garden style multifamily because it just wouldn't underwrite today. But there is demand, and we're seeing a significant amount of this product now go out into those particular areas. We're also seeing it, populate like down the east coast of Florida from, going south from Melbourne. We're working on some stuff in the Port St. Lucie market. So may not make it down here just because of the land costs to the extent we see it in other areas. But I mean, the popularity is definitely spreading across the Sun Belt, no question.
As a follow-up to that, when you go into one of those smaller tertiary markets, are you doing a smaller development then to kind of correspond?
They tend to be smaller. They tend to be, I'd say, 75 units or less. Versus when you get into a bigger market, we may see 200 units in a location.
Yeah, makes sense. Bill, what markets are you excited about?
We're really looking southeast. We've looked at some stuff in Florida, many pencil numbers, but the Charlotte area and Nashville, all the usual markets. But I do like the secondary markets as well. Approvals are easier, sometimes permitting, building permits and things like that. I've built in Florida for many years, and, a building permit in Broward County takes 6 months. So time is money in this business, and it's hard when you get to things like that. So some of the secondary markets, we're in one market, you pay a fee for a building permit. You know, $100 to get you a building permit. In Florida, you have full engineering on it take forever. So some of the secondary markets are easy.
Howard, anything to add? I mean,
You put me at the end.
I was gonna say, you did the first question to wrap up.
I think we actually as well been in a long little bit of space coast area. We've mentioned coincidentally something close inclusive. And we've got single family and multi-family sort of northeast of Atlanta. It's sort of in the sort of part of the Atlanta area that we have for both for jobs and crime, frankly. It's less of an issue as in the area we sort of push towards as we do stuff in the Atlanta area.
Is anyone looking in the panhandle yet of Florida?
I'm seeing a little bit, but not much.
Okay. Well, I think you should start looking more.
We're working on a project in Pensacola.
Okay. All right. Lots of jobs, military base.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
We did have a couple questions from the audience. I just want to get to one quickly, and then we'll wrap up. Howard, are you seeing a need to address any multi-generational families with elderly parents living with adult children?
Now, at the end.
You said it was
Certainly, if we're doing stuff on the BTR side, something you might think about, obviously the scouts,
Yeah.
take what you're given.
right.
So, it's not something we're certainly not going to read them home to do that. It's already developed, but frankly, probably more something we do on a lot, but we pay attention on more on the work from home aspect and having that aspect of multi-generational thought, at least for now.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, a very good question, multi-generational families, because that's certainly being delivered on the for sale side. And, depending on the demographics of the local area, I mean, it could be a home run. So really great. I'll give you a softball though to wrap it up, Howard. We'll go through 30 seconds really quickly. What? Squeaky wheel gets the grease, okay? So, 30 seconds. What's your outlook for the industry over the next 12 months, and what are you excited about?
So over the next 12 months, we're more focused on BTR than SFR, and it really comes down to the cost. It's really the cost of capital and what you can build to SFR, which the math really isn't working right now. So, that's really where we're focused.
Okay, so BTR versus SFR. Bill?
Interest rates are obviously changed the form. We need to get things quickly. We're trying to develop lots and things like that can keep off the books until we're ready to actually build things. But I think we could see as things shake out, I think people may not qualify for homes, so it could be a benefit to the BTR. We're just going to have to work through the next year or so and see where things go.
Sorry, one thing is we may also do some debt or mezz financing for people who need transitions at the point time.
That's a good opportunity, debt or mezz financing. All right, Chris?
I think the outlook for demand is good. Echoing what Bill said, I saw something from the Mortgage Bankers Association last week that said, you know, the average cost of a mortgage today, given interest rates, taxes, and insurance, is 33% higher than it was a year ago. So I think that drives a lot of what would have been potential home buyers into this space even deeper.
So the demand is there. It's hard to get it produced, right?
Exactly.
If the deals work.
Totally agree. I think it's less expensive for you to rent than what it is to own a house nowadays. So the rental market is going to continue to grow. My crystal ball may be broken. I think we're going to have a rough time until the end of the year with interest rates. Who knows? We have this new decision about the debt ceiling, being met this probably by the June 1st. But I do forecast a lot of lack of inventory coming, because it's not feasible for a lot of the builders to build BTR right now because of the cost of land, cost of capital. We're joint venturing a lot with landowners right now to try to make this a little bit more affordable, the build-to-rent space. So I do foresee a lack of inventory coming into the market, especially in the south of the country. And my advice is, if you're getting into the BTR space, do not invest where the sun doesn't shine. That's pretty much what I usually say. But the rental market is going to continue to grow. The demographics show that. The job growth in some of the areas are strong. So make sure you know your area, your local market. Real estate is local.
And just to make it real simple, I'm excited about the secondary markets growing and the rental space growing because of, as Chris had said, you have a lot of, it's expensive to buy a house. So I'm betting, we're benefiting from that, so.
Right, absolutely. Okay, well, please join me in thanking this great group of panelists. Really appreciate